Welcome to the finish line here on 93.7 Ticket, the ticketfm.com. Mike Albee, Rebecca Pierce, right to my left, Suka, PR man for Eagle Raceway. And first things first, I have got to say, I am a longtime sprint car fan. I've told the story about Devil's Bowl Speedway, my first race in 1974, to Lonnie Jensen at Eagle or Midwest Speedway when I first got introduced to it up here. But man, I have not seen a night that had spectacular racing with ungodly, unbelievable, amazing finishes like last night. Not only did you have the Ironman 55, that the last 5 laps may be the best 5 laps of sprint car racing I've ever seen, second only or just ahead of the last 3 laps at Eagle at the High Limit Series earlier this year. And then at Knoxville, Brian Brown by 0.02 of a second over Aaron Reitzel, the only 0.02 of a second in time that Brian Brown led that race. And then a young lady we're going to have on the air in a couple of weeks, Jade Avedizian, last night takes over the point lead for the Extreme Midgets. Oh, my goodness.
You go, girl.
And did it with slide job bombs and what?
She's
like,
aggressive.
seriously, guys, that was an amazing, amazing night of racing. I know you were probably a little busy being out of
Just
Eagle.
slightly, yeah.
Did you have an opportunity to catch any of it?
No,
And highlights?
I did not. I was
Highlight-wise, were you able to pull something up and maybe see some of the highlights from any of these
saw
races?
a few of the stuff from Belleville and a little bit of the Knoxville race.
Okay.
So,
Well, and that was the other thing, too, is that the Belleville 305 Nationals was last night. And unbelievable because 2 cars got DQ'd. One of them was one of our first guests on the finish line, Stu Snyder. But there winds up being 2 DQs for cars being underweight. And that was a little crazy because that's something you don't see very often. The only other time in a big race that I remember this happening was an outlaw race last summer where Carson Macedo pulled across the scale and he was under 14:25. And my understanding in that case was that they'll bolt some weight onto the car every once in a while. And one of them had broken and fallen off. So this week, before we really get rolling, obviously we had those great stories and great races last night. I want to thank some proud new sponsors we have of the finish line. Stern, formerly Stern Oil. Now they just go by Stern. They distribute everything. If it's a lubricant for your car to help you go faster and have better fuel economy, whatever it is, Stern is the place to go.
And they have some fuels. They have something called atomic fuel, which we'll get them to talk about here sometime in the future. Yeah. Doesn't that sound cool? Atomic fuel.
And then a big thanks, Mobil One, coming on board as a sponsor of the finish line, and Eagle Raceway as well. We've got you here this week. Is there a rumor we may get Roger?
Yes, there's a good rumor. I think we might get
Racine?
Roger and Racing.
Okay,
yes,
next week.
that ought to be fun.
Yes.
Yep. And then our sponsor from a couple, about 6 weeks ago, Mike Boston and Eagle Motorsports LLC jumped on board. Mike, the new owner of Eagle Chassis, does a fantastic job. By the way, the car that Kyle Larson bounced off the wall and bounced off of everything last night, that's an Eagle chassis. Just saying. So, how was Eagle last night?
Wonderful. I tell you, it was a little warm and awful humid when we started, but by the time the features rolled around,
it cooled down.
The sun went down.
Yep.
Temperature cooled down. Humidity went down. The breeze came up. It was wonderful.
It was great. Yeah, it was really
great
nice.
racing all night as always.
Right. A little bit light last night because of the Nationals.
Well, the 360 Nationals at Knoxville. Belleville was running the 305 Nationals.
Right.
So we were a little short on cars last night, but
it was a great racing though. Still.
Oh yeah, especially that sprint car race.
Yep, that was a good one.
Yeah, last night at the Belleville 305 Nationals, Jack Dover, local guy, doesn't race a ton at Eagle with 305s. He's mainly a 360 guy, but he ran the 305 Nationals at Belleville. Came home 5th after everything shook out. Stewie actually ran 4th, but got DQ'd. Joey Danley wound up 8th last night, and then Toby Chapman, a guy that'll normally run at Eagle off and on anymore. I don't know if he does a full schedule, but Toby, I've known Toby forever as well. He came home 21st, blew up a motor, though, early in the race. So a lot of local flavor, making a pretty damn big event down at Belleville. The winner last night in that was Jerry Campbell. And I think the interview I saw, he just screamed. He's like, 15 pounds is 15 pounds. I'll take it. He was pretty stoked. So before we get rolling along and start, Greg, getting into some discussion about Eagle, and I've got a ton of questions that I want to ask you and I can kind of share some things that I don't think the normal fans understand and that they know. So I'm going to have Austin kind of dig around and try to find the old Victory Lane segment intro. After you walk, am I going to have to carry you? Where to? Victory Lane.
Come around here. Head over there. That's where everybody wants to be, and that's where this party's going to finish. Victory
He's
Lane.
waited 15 years to get back to Victory Lane here at Talladega.
For the 11th time in his illustrious career, Donnie Schatz back in Victory Lane in the Knoxville.
He's making the right-hand turn to Knox Energy Drink Victory Lane.
The most anticipated moment in the history of NASCAR racing. Dale Earnhardt rolling into Victory Lane in the Daytona 5.
Into Victory Lane in all kinds of forms of racing. We're going to go ahead and start with the High Limit Series on Tuesday. Justin Peck, in a heated battle with Kyle Larson, steals the lead from him with about 10 to go at Kokomo Speedway and winds up with a $23,023 paycheck at the end of that one. The World of Outlaw Sprint Cars, I mentioned, it was the Ironman 55. It is a slightly larger than quarter-mile track called Federated Auto Parts Speedway in Peabody, Missouri, on I-55 Raceway, and it was a show that I don't believe I've seen. It literally was one of the best sprint car races I've ever witnessed. I watched one at US 36 earlier this year that Sheldon Haudenschild won, and I was blown away by it. But, man, last night, the Ironman, absolutely insane. Kyle Larson and Logan Schuchart proved a point. We were talking a couple of weeks ago about how small the pool is of guys who think they're that good that can get in a car and do what Larson and Schuchart did last night. You know what? I all appreciation anybody that gets behind a wheel. I don't care if it's a sprint car. I don't care if it's a tuner. I don't care if it's a motorcycle, a go-kart. Major props to you. But in order to do what they did last night, there's a very few number of people on this planet that can put on that type of show. But Larson wins his second Ironman, only the fourth person ever to win two of them. Up next for the Outlaws, the biggest, baddest event on the planet, Knoxville Nationals. I'll be there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday next week. Couldn't quite get Wednesday to work out, but I'll be there. I'll be tweeting up a storm, letting everybody know what's going on there. World of Outlaw late models. It's the USA Nationals that went on at Cedar Lake Speedway Thursday, Friday, and Saturday this last week. Before they got there, over in Boone, Iowa, Boone Speedway, Bobby Pierce took home the win for the World of Outlaw late models. And then Pierce takes Thursday night's prelim. Chris Madden beat him to the line on Friday and got that prelim win, but Bobby Pierce wins his third of four on the week and takes home, I think it was about $60,000, won by 0.073 of a second over Hudson O'Neal. Lucas Oil late models are off this week, and at Knoxville last night, Brian Brown with, I don't know, about 7 inches to go past Aaron Reitzel for the win. Reitzel had led all 29 laps up to that point. 0.02 of a second was the difference in.
That's the saying of by a nose.
Yeah,
that was definitely by a nose.
Exactly. Down at Beatrice on Friday, they finally, they're 3 weeks in a row now where Mother Nature did not win. In the modifieds, Jordan Grabowski winds up with the victory there. Sport mod class, Lance Borgman, he did a double win, not only double duty, but double wins last night. Sport mods, or Friday night, sport mods and stock cars. Lance Borgman takes home the win at Beatrice. Adam Wasserman wins the hobby stocks on Friday at Beatrice, and then the sports compact. Brandon Carmichael took home the win there. And at I-55 as well over the weekend was the Extreme Outlaw Midgets. And Jade Avedizian is on a tear, folks. She has won 3 of 4, I believe, in her last 6 races. She has 5 top 5s. She has now taken over the point lead from Cannon McIntosh, who did not have a fantastic weekend down in Peevely. But we'll have Jade on the show here in 2 weeks on August 20th. Looking forward to talk to her. And Greg, I know they raced at Eagle last night. Do you happen to have some results that you can share with us?
I've got all the results if you want them.
I would love to have them here on the Victory Lane segment, sponsored by Eagle Chassis.
Okay, first up was the IMCA stock cars. And Dylan Richards took home the win. He's been having a bugaboo, I'd say, for a while, but he got back to Victory Lane last night. The sport mods, excuse me, Matt Andrews won, 5th time this year. He rolled his car 2 weeks ago, had to tear that one out, build a whole new one, And now they finally got it running to where they want and took home the victory. The modifieds, it was going to be a battle of the Anderson boys. Dustin Anderson started on the front row. His brother Chad started on the third row. And it took about no time at all for the two to just take off. And it was back and forth. Finally, Chad got past him, went on to win. Then the, excuse me, the hobby stocks, really good race. Well, they always are. And Tyler Jackson, who again, it's either been the penthouse or the outhouse for this poor guy, finally got it back together, took home the win. And the best race of the night, the IMCA Race Saver Sprints. Trevor Grossenbacher started 17th, worked his way up slowly, got to second. Tyler Druke, who's absolutely fantastic at Eagle Raceway, was out in the lead. There was a caution with 2 laps to go. Trevor was always running really good in 1 and 2 on the high side and 3 and 4 on the bottom. So he took the high side going into 1 and 2, came down under Tyler in 3 and 4, held on for the win. First one for him this year. He's kind of on a hit and miss schedule.
That was another close finish and exciting race.
Yeah, absolutely. Trevor, a guy that we had on the show. We also had his crew chief, Tyler Perry, who's promoting a big show coming up on Sunday, September 10th, out at Eagle Raceway, the Stuart Alley Memorial. But one thing about Trevor, part of his hit and miss was a nasty accident that he took a few weeks ago. And I got to give another big shout out to our sponsor of the Victory Lane segment, Mike Boston, because with Trevor's car specifically, that was a car that maybe they just needed to let it go to the graveyard of sprint car chassis. But Mike Boston, his expertise is just unbelievable ability as a certified welder. Winds up getting that car put back together. Took a couple of weeks and a lot of hours because Mike was just moving into his new shop with Eagle Motorsports and got that thing put back together. And again, a big, huge thank you to Mike Boston and Eagle Motorsports. Eagle Chassis, they're back and better than ever for sponsoring the Victory Lane segment. If you've got some frame damage you need fixed, if you need a sprint car chassis, I would tell you right now that Mike Boston's a guy you're going to want to call. 402-826-0302 and get a hold of him, and you can talk all about sprint car racing. And you never know who's going to stop by. I know when the High Limit Series was in town, he shows up at the shop on Wednesday morning, and Paul Silva and Kyle Larson are hanging out, just one of those things. So
that's part of the racing family.
It really is. So from the standpoint of last night, I want to talk a little bit about car count. Now, you guys struggled with a little car count last night because there's a bunch of big events going on.
Yeah.
And there's, when I announced out there, Craig Cormack elected and the Beechams before them, they would not race on Knoxville Nationals weekend. They ran 360s though, a little bit different from the standpoint of most of the 360 guys weren't going to be there because they were going to be at Knoxville, not necessarily racing, but watching. With the 305 set, it's not overly the case. I know you guys will go ahead and run next weekend, but you're going to have a little bit lower car counts. But other than big races and stuff like that, you guys always seem to be able to get good fields of cars. Why is that?
Well, it's a great place to race, number one.
True.
Always a great surface. Normally get somewhere between 130, 140 cars a night. Not quite that many last night, but it's just a competition. I mean, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And some of the best there is race at Eagle Raceway every Saturday.
That they do. Conversely, down at Beatrice, they had 77 cars last night in 5 classes. They had basically about 15 cars per class, and a couple of them only had 11 or 12. And it's been that way off and on. They've been trying to get the sprint cars back down there. They're going to try to run 305s again next Friday night. That's been a struggle this year. They had 20 some odd cars that first week, then only 9. The next time they were supposed to be down there, it rained out. But you worked at Eagle a long time. How difficult is it, whether it's a new class or just if you've got a car count that's not as high as you'd like to see it, what are things that you guys have done at Eagle to try to, reach out and get guys to come back out to the track?
Well, when Roger first took over the place, the 360s were running then. And the car count just kept dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. So Roger decided to go out and find a different class to run. And he ran into the Race Saver class. French Grimes started back in 1997 on the East Coast. And he liked the idea. He says, I know there's a bunch of cars sitting in people's garages, backyards, fields, or whatever. Then you get these sprint cars back out and race. It's a completely even class. Everybody runs the same kind of motors, same specs. So he tried that, and by golly, getting 20, 30, 40 cars, depends. And then the Race Saver Nationals coming up later in August, we figure probably, 90, 95 cars.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, because the Knoxville Nationals, the 360 Nationals were this past week. And, fantastic races. We mentioned I had to wear my Tanner Holmes shirt again. I'm a big fan of this young man. He was there last year as a rookie and, struggling, trying to find his footing, et cetera. He's a 19-year-old man out of Jacksonville, Oregon. And he shows up and raced for a month almost in and around Iowa and northern Missouri and up at Huset's, Jackson, wherever he could race here in the last couple of weeks. And he shows up last night and first on his prelim night on Thursday. He went out, did fantastic, wound up 10th in the feature. He was second quick on time trials, qualified through the heat into the feature, and then was 10th or 12th overall in points. Ultimately started, I want to say, 10th in the A feature last night for the 360 Nationals title. And he worked his way up to 5th. And this is a kid that jumped in a go-kart 10 years ago. And his dad, when they finally put the sprint cars together, he bought a book. Like this isn't a family thing. He bought a book. But Tanner Holmes had a heck of a run last night. And then about 4 laps to go, you mentioned a couple of guys get snake bit every once in a while. Some gremlins popped up, and he had some problems with his steering, and it ended his night. He ultimately wound up 20th or 21st. But it was just kind of one of those things. I'm working on trying to get Tanner. I don't know. I would want to get him for the hour, and I want to get him live if we can.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm working. Him and I had talked earlier this year about possibly coming on, but it would be a recorded interview. And as we've started to do this, it's just a little bit more fun having people either in studio or on the line for the whole show.
Yep.
So big props with that. They had 108 cars for the 360 Nationals. There's 105 pre-registered. They're probably going to wind up with about 108 to 110. And this is something we'll talk to Roger and/or Racine about next week. But give me some thoughts on the Race Saver Nationals, how they came about, and how the crew, the family of Eagle Raceway that puts shows on every week has built the Race Saver Nationals into the event that it is.
Well, as I said, French Grimes started the Race Saver Series back in 97 over on the East Coast. And Roger was looking for a new class to run. So you get a few more cars. He said, I know there's sprint cars sitting out there in the weeds somewhere. Maybe we can get the guys to come out. Race Saver Series is built on the fact that everybody has an equal footing. You have the same equipment, the same engines, same specs for everything. And Roger really liked that, so he went down, talked to French, and decided to take it over. And like I said, we were having 14, 17 cars in the 360s. It was a hit. And right now, there's Race Saver Series all over the country.
Yep.
It's probably the largest series anywhere for sprint cars. And it's just grown like leaps and bounds.
And, we talked a few weeks ago about claiming. Maybe when we come back, we can get Greg's opinion of what the drivers in the pits think about the claiming, because that's a favorite topic to keep costs down.
That it definitely is. This is the finish line on 93.7. The Ticket. Will be back with Greg Sukup from Eagle Raceway right after this. Eagle Chassis are back and better than ever. New owner Mike Boston, who has been building Eagle Chassis for the last 2.5 years, will be using the same high-quality raw materials and equipment that Eagle Chassis have always been made with. Located in Lincoln, Nebraska, Eagle Motorsports LLC will continue to provide sprint car teams with the safest, most durable chassis there are. They will give drivers the strength, flexibility, and durability that they need to win on race night. If you're looking for a new chassis or need repairs made to your current one, call Mike at 402-826-0302.
If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, 988 for free, confidential, and compassionate support. On July 16th, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is transitioning to 988. There is hope. For 24/7 support, call, text, or chat 988.
Sponsored by Nebraska DHHS, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Hey, moms and dads, bring the whole crew to a Salt Dogs baseball game and unleash the fun. Visit Haymarket Park all summer for fireworks Fridays, souvenir Saturdays, Sunday family fun days, and more. With 50 home games, even weekdays can be unforgettable. Planning an event? Make it a home run with group discounts. When you need an outing the whole family will enjoy, unleash the fun with the Salt Dogs. Call 402-474-2255 or visit saltdogs.com for tickets.
Sandhills Global is hiring. Check out sandhills.jobs for more information. Sandhills is looking to fill hundreds of new openings in sales, traveling support, software development, web design, and more. Sandhills has a professional culture and is fast-paced with a focus on growth, innovation, and leading-edge technologies. Career and internship opportunities are available at our global headquarters in Lincoln, Nebraska. Apply today at sandhills.jobs.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now, they've raised wages again, and they're hiring for production operators at $24.62 per hour, which grows to $28.97 per hour within 3 years. Skilled trade positions now start at $33.36 per hour, with opportunities to make more based on certifications. Continental also has salary jobs available, great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates, with increased bonuses and vacation for new hires. To learn more or apply, go to continentaljobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. That's doihaveprediabetes.org.
Wait, did they just say 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes? That's 33.33333% of adults. That means it could be me, my boss, or my boss's boss, or me, my favorite sister, or my other sister. That's 7 members of my 21-person romantic book club. Wait, the 1 in 3 could be me, my karaoke partner Carol, or my karaoke enemy Jeff. I'm going to take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved ones.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
This is Bud Seinhorst, President and CEO of LIBA, the Lincoln Independent Business Association. Join us every Saturday from 9 to 10 a.m. on 93.7 The Ticket for the LIBA Business Hour, as we discuss local business and highlight those who are thriving in the Lincoln area. It's the LIBA Business Hour, Saturdays from 9 to 10 a.m. on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Back to the finish line with Mike Melby on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Welcome back to the finish line here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. If you're watching on the Sutter Heyman live stream, thank you very much. You can see us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube, as well as Allo Channel 951. If you'd like to be a part of the show, you can call or text the Honda of Lincoln hotline or the Sutter Heyman text line 402-464-5685. I'm Mike Melby. That's Rebecca Pearson. Austin Norman driving the car tonight, and Greg Sukup from hanging out with us tonight. And Becca, you led into it with the claims. And
I like to be controversial. I'm sorry.
I like it. So I'm going to let you finish the thought on
Let
it
me finish
because
the thought.
off air, a good story started to develop, and I'd like to share it with everybody.
Well, I think, we keep talking about the size of the field and just how do you keep these tracks going? And, why don't people do more racing? And we know it's very expensive. And so many of these folks out at Eagle have a day job and they're racing at night. And so anything that can be done, like Race Saver Nationals, to make it more affordable, 305s, it's important. And so we got talking about claiming a few weeks ago with one of our other guests. And we know the drivers don't like it, but it doesn't seem to ever happen. So what's your view, Greg? You've been around a long time. What's your view on that and the current status of affairs?
Well, I've seen it, I don't know how many times, but anymore you just don't see it. It's kind of a gentlemanly thing. We did have somebody claim shocks a few weeks ago, but other than that, the last time I can remember before that, Ramsey Meyer was driving a Sport Compact. He was the national champion. He was killing everybody everywhere he went. Somebody claimed his entire car.
Now, how much did they have to pay to claim the car? I mean, $500 for a modified motor.
Yeah, but I think it was $500 for the whole car.
Really?
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
And team that bought it took it home, took it apart, learned everything they could, put it back together, and sold it back to him.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Well, I mean, quite honestly, it's not a bad thing to do.
No. I mean, because you got a car that's that good.
Yeah.
You want to know what is what.
Well, and that's the thing, too, is that when Tyler Perry was in here, we were talking a little bit about the fact that sprint cars are relatively easy to work on, and modifieds, late models, hobby stocks, doesn't make any difference. Everything else is not necessarily easy to work on. And there are so many little things that you can do. And there's been a lot of to-do late model-wise nationally with the Lucas Oil Series and the World of Outlaw Series, where guys are... Bobby Pierce wins last night, USA Nationals at Cedar Lake. And like his crew is down there covering up the behind the car so that you cannot see what he's doing. And there's so much secrecy in it. And that's the thing with the sprint car. It's like the only thing that you could really maybe tell is if you can possibly see where the setting is on a shock. Because you had mentioned as well, Greg, that with the sprint cars, with 305s, the Race Sabers, there's only probably 50, 60, 70 tops horse difference between the motors.
If that.
Yeah. So you've got to make your speed elsewhere. You've got to be able to be Trevor Grossenbacher going from 17th to the win last night, and Tyler Drucke a couple of weeks ago doing the exact same thing, coming out of the B. Yep, coming out of the B and winning the thing. It's all shocks. And there's so many adjustments on the shocks too. What do you know about from that standpoint? What do you know about the sprint cars, the shocks on cars, and the changes that they can make?
You could fit my entire knowledge about that in a
thought I'd throw it out
about
there.
a P.
Okay, just thought I'd ask. So, but it also makes it to the point that's where the shocks got claimed in sprints a couple of weeks ago, correct?
How did they feel about that? Whoever got claimed?
Never heard word one.
Well, okay, so
it's just not done anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it keeps it fair, like you said, and especially in the sprints, there's only so many moving parts. Shocks and setup, number one.
Yep.
Driver ability, close second.
Yeah.
But that's all there is to it.
Well, it definitely is. One of the things that came up in one of the races last night down at the 305 Nationals at the Belleville High Banks was weight. And guys coming in underweight, so they're disqualified. Stewie Snyder winds up being one of them, as well as the original winner, Kyle Jones, who was DQ'd because he was 15 pounds underweight. Now the scale at Eagle, I always loved where it was, and I always would kind of quietly suggest that we need to put, like, let's let the crowd see what the car weighs. I always thought that would be kind of a cool thing to do.
Oh, you need to put that up to Roger next week.
Just a little transparency, but it's just one of those things. I'm the announcer guy, and granted, I did all the track prep, and Steve Janisek and I did track prep, and cleanup crew, whatever. I did everything out there, but making that decision wasn't something that I had any say in or whatever. I was always like, man, because the crowd would ask. There'd be times they're like, well, what do the cars weigh? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not down there.
The only thing about that is, does your regular everyday fan care? Do they know enough to know that there is a weight limit or what that is?
Well, I can tell you this, as an announcer, it's my job to make sure that they do know in case they want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do they care? I don't know. But at the same time, I feel like I'd be remiss if there's somebody down there and they're like, well, he's on the scale and, nobody said anything. Somebody gave a thumbs up. So great. But at the same time, I as a race fan, I'd be like, okay, he made weight. What's weight? Like,
right.
And
they probably have no idea.
I just kind of want to know
yeah.
how much did he weigh then? Like,
yeah.
And when we had Mike Boston on a couple of weeks back, probably 6 weeks ago now, one of the things that he mentioned, being a chassis builder, being a guy that builds a frame, that frame's job is to more than anything, protect you at the end of the day. Win, lose, finish second, makes no difference. But if you get in an accident, that frame's job, its only job, is to make sure that you're safe. And he alluded to a fact that there was a World of Outlaw sprint car team that was based here in Lincoln, Nebraska, that he walked into their shop. This is back in the 90s. And they're literally weighing out ounces to try to get that car to as light of weight as possible. And he kind of joked, why? I mean, I don't get, like, if you're that worried about that weight and, that it's going to make that big of a difference, then maybe it should tell you something about your driver. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. It's been going on forever. They want to make the lightest possible parts, smallest fuel tanks,
right?
The least fuel they can put in there to make it to the end.
Yep.
Titanium this, titanium that.
Yep.
And I agree. If that was me, I'd want that car to be as sturdy as it could. Put on the extra 50, 60 pounds. I don't care.
Yeah.
But drivers are so competitive that they think that 4 ounces is going to help.
And it's interesting to me. I think in the cars I'm more familiar with on road courses, where that weight, these are 3,000-pound cars, not 1,400. Then it makes a difference. I think probably more in those cars than those sprint cars. And I think about how light they are and some of the tumbles that we saw last night, right, with Williamson and Johnson, correct?
Yep.
I mean, that's like head over head over head over head. These very lightweight cars, it kind of freaks you out. So I think it's useful to know as a fan, those lightweight cars, that's what they're going to do. These 3,000-pound cars, on a pavement or a road course, not as likely.
The other thing, though, you got to admit, if a 3,000-pound car does a little tumble, it goes end over end or barrel rolls, that's different.
Well, and they're going faster too, right? There's all kinds of components in there, but every racer wants a lighter car and also fuel efficiency. There's a handful of things that you think really helps you, but at the end of the day, the driver skill contributes.
That's Greg Sokup. Rebecca Pearson on my right. I'm Mike Belby. Austin Norman behind the board here on the finish line at 93.7 The Ticket. Greg, I want to learn a little bit more about what you do out at Eagle these days.
Well, I first started there 20 plus years ago. They needed somebody to work in the pit shack selling pit pans. So I did that. And then the PR guy who was there at the time, Jason North, left. And somebody recommended me. So then I was both the pit shack guy and the PR guy all of a sudden. So, I mean, there's nothing I love more than dirt track racing anyway. My folks took me to my first dirt track race when I was 1 month old, May of 1953, at the Lincoln Speedway out at Capitol Beach.
Nice.
And every year we'd go to the state fair to see the IMCA sprints run, or supermods they were back then.
Yep.
And then Capitol Beach closed, and Midwest Speedway and Eagle Raceway opened in 1963.
Yep.
Matter of fact, Trevor, his dad raced at Midwest Speedway back in the day. I was out there every Sunday
Well, I was
night.
going to say, I can tell you stories about Steve, and I can tell you there's one. And when we had Trevor on the phone, the one thing I told him, I said, I would love to get you and your dad in studio. Because, I was 10 years old when his dad was racing out there. That's when I first started going to races around here. But his dad took one of the worst spills I've ever seen in a sprint car down the front stretch at Midwest Speedway. And just, I'd love to pick his brain. And I'm sure he remembers some of it, or he's heard enough stories, if he doesn't remember anything from it, that he remembers what everybody told him. But yeah, Steve is one of those guys, and the Grossenbacher family is just one of those families that, they are sprint car racing in Lincoln, Nebraska, just like the Drought family is sprint car racing in Nebraska, the Jensen family, the Riggins family. They're the ones the fathers and the sons have carried on, or the grandsons have carried on. Good friend of mine, one of my best friends, Ty Jensen, hoping to get him back in a car next year.
Really?
Yeah, you never know. No guarantees, but we're sniffing around.
I'd love to see Tig back.
No pressure, Tig. No pressure, Brian.
We know you're all listening to us now. We've talked about families forever, right? And it does feel like these are generational trends, I guess, in dirt track racing in particular. But your parents were just fans; they didn't race. So, as a kid, your parents are taking you to the track. What do you remember about that? Why do you like that as a kid? And then as an adult, you're still going.
Well, when I first started going, I don't remember a whole lot, but I do remember. The Speedway was part of the Capitol Beach Amusement Park.
Okay.
And they had the coolest rides for a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. And now I said we used to go to the state fair every year, watch the IMCA races.
Yep.
And I love that. Day race, rooster tails to the moon, dust, oh my Lord. But I was enthralled with beautiful cars, hand painted, hand lettered, gold leaf. I mean, I was hooked.
Yeah. Car people are car people. I wandered around the pits last night. I like to look in, see what's going on. I look at paint schemes. I like to see who the sponsors are. But the other thing about families and racetracks is they have themes. Eagle in particular has lots of themes, just like any amusement park would. We should talk about last night because I saw some serious mullets. It was 80s.
80s rock and roll classic.
Yes.
And we managed to have a mullet contest.
Yes.
At intermission.
I wished I'd gotten a picture. Sorry, I lost my voice there. I wished I'd gotten a picture of that. I saw some serious ones in the crowd.
Okay, so out of curiosity, would photos from the 90s work, or did you actually have to have a mullet last night?
No, you had to have a mullet.
Dang it.
I
Because
saw a young boy, probably 7.
That's probably the one I saw.
Had a killer.
He was rocking it. Yeah, that's probably the same one I saw. It was nice. It was nice. His hair was all the way down his back. I saw some, wigs or whatever too, but his hair was all the way down his back. Blonde kid, good looking kid, cute, probably about 7 years old. It's kind of a mohawk on the side and shaved on both sides, but he was riding it really well. He looked fantastic.
you guys don't know this, and I may bring a picture in. But
Oh, my.
when I was Iron Mike at the Blaze, I was convinced that my mullet made me look like a rock star, and it was not good.
Oh, I think we need to post that on 937 The Ticket Twitter.
Oh,
Definitely.
I'll try to find a picture. It's embarrassing, but you know what? I owned it for like 4 years, so who cares?
Well, but there was a time when it was cool, and I know
Here's
some
the
of our
funny-
advertisers used to wear mullets. I can think of a few.
So but I'm sitting here thinking right now, I'm like, at the time I thought it was cool.
Yes,
I was
it was
wrong.
not cool.
I
Oh, okay.
was wrong.
But what are some of the themes? We talk about this family, bring your family. It's one of the things I like about Eagle is it's very affordable to bring your family out there. What are some of the more interesting themes that people like out there that they do at the track?
Bus races are a big
Bus
one.
races. Okay.
School buses.
Okay, cool.
They get some of the drivers
Mhm.
and put them in school buses and let them race around the track. There's a lot of beating, banging, pieces and parts flying everywhere. In fact, a couple of weeks from now, there's going to be a bus demolition derby. I talked to Racine today. She said she managed to buy 7 small school buses,
Awesome.
and they're going to have a demolition derby with them after the races.
Well, that sounds like fun.
One of the things that you guys did a few years ago, and I'm looking at the clock, and Rebecca and I and
Mhm.
Austin, we're always kind of
We got
conscious
it.
about the clock, and I think I want to jump to break first, but I'm going to kind of preview it a little bit. You put, I believe, 2 cars from every class on the track at the same time a couple of years ago. I want to hear that story, how you guys came up with the idea when we come back. This is The Finish Line on 93.7 The Ticket. That's Rebecca Pearson, Greg Sook up there, Austin Norman driving the car. My name is Mike Belby. Back with more after this. Eagle chassis are back and better than ever. New owner Mike Boston, who has been building Eagle chassis for the last 2.5 years, will be using the same high-quality raw materials and equipment that Eagle chassis have always been made with. Located in Lincoln, Nebraska, Eagle Motorsports LLC will continue to provide sprint car teams the safest, most durable chassis there are. They will give drivers the strength, flexibility, and durability that they need to win on race night. If you're looking for a new chassis or need repairs made to your current one, call Mike at 402-826-0302.
If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, call 988 for free, confidential, and compassionate support. On July 16th, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is transitioning to 988. There is hope. For 24/7 support, call, text, or chat 988.
Sponsored by Nebraska DHHS, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Hey, moms and dads, bring the whole crew to a Salt Dogs baseball game and unleash the fun. Visit Haymarket Park all summer for Fireworks Fridays, Souvenir Saturdays, Sunday Family Fun Days, and more. With 50 home games, even weekdays can be unforgettable. Planning an event? Make it a home run with group discounts. When you need an outing the whole family will enjoy, unleash the fun with the Salt Dogs. Call 402-474-2255 or visit saltdogs.com for tickets.
Sandhills Global is hiring. Check out sandhills.jobs for more information. Sandhills is looking to fill hundreds of new openings in sales, traveling support, software development, web design, and more. Sandhills has a professional culture and is fast-paced with a focus on growth, innovation, and leading-edge technologies. Career and internship opportunities are available at our global headquarters in Lincoln, Nebraska. Apply today at sandhills.jobs.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now, they've raised wages again, and they're hiring for production operators at $24.62 per hour, which grows to $28.97 per hour within 3 years. Skilled trade positions now start at $33.36 per hour, with opportunities to make more based on certifications. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates, with increased bonuses and vacation for new hires. To learn more or apply, go to continentaljobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. That's doihaveprediabetes.org.
Wait, did they just say 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes? That's 33.33333% of adults. That means it could be me, my boss, or my boss's boss, or me, my favorite sister, or my other sister. That's 7 members of my 21-person romantic book club. Wait, the 1 in 3 could be me, my karaoke partner Carol, or my karaoke enemy Jeff. I'm going to take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
This is Bud Seinhorst, President and CEO of LIBA, the Lincoln Independent Business Association. Join us every Saturday from 9 to 10 a.m. on 93.7 The Ticket for the LIBA Business Hour, as we discuss local business and highlight those who are thriving in the Lincoln area. It's the LIBA Business Hour, Saturdays from 9 to 10 a.m. on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
with Mike Melby on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to the finish line here on 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com. I am your host, Mike Melby. Rebecca Pearson to my right. Greg Sokup from Eagle Raceway. He's the PR director out there. Is to my left, Austin Norman driving the car tonight. And interesting news. Rain, bad rain this morning at Knoxville. And tonight is the Capitani Classic in memory of Ralph Capitani. And I didn't know if they'd get it in. They're going to race. However, Walkipedia, for those dirt track fans, you know who Walkipedia is. For those that don't know who it is, it'll take me 45 minutes to explain. Anyway, he's a guy that does an amazing job covering dirt track racing, specifically sprint cars. Some of the notable names from tonight's Capitani Classic that will not partake: Kyle Rico Abreu, Brad Sweet, Donnie Shield, Baston, David Grabble, Logan Schuchart, Jacob Allen, Casey Kane, Corey Day, Anthony Macri, Hunter Schoenberg.
Who is running then?
That's a good question. I mean, that's a little surprising, and I don't know if it's because of the track.
It's got to be, because if it rained that much, they're afraid of a cowboy up track, ruts, holes.
And after what the Outlaw guys put up with it at Peevely last night, they're a little more too. Holy smokes.
Wow.
A little gun shy.
Wonder why they're running then. Oh, well.
But hey, bottom line, you got to get the show in. And that's, I mean, bottom line, get the show in. We had our sponsor's name, Midsummer Midget Classic, with the USAC sprint cars. If it was Mobil One, I would have said Mobil One, because Mobil One sponsors this show. Stern sponsors this show, but it's not either one of them, and it's not Eagle. But the sponsor, Midsummer Midget Championship with USAC at Eagle Raceway, was on a Tuesday every year. I think it was like the third or fourth Tuesday, or what, I don't remember. Anyways, it's the last Tuesday in July every year is when it was. We had gotten 5 inches of rain between the races and Tuesday morning, and the track was horrible. We had just gotten a brand new dually tractor about a week and a half before, and the midget guys, a couple of them pulled in about 10 o'clock in the morning, and they're like, yeah, we're not racing, right? We're like, yeah, we're not going to call it yet. And fans are calling up, and I always did the voicemail, because fans would call I can't remember the number right now. It's changed anyway, and they'd hear me say, hey, we're racing tonight, blah, 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 or sorry, we're rained out. Never changed the message. And Craig Cormack and Linda Cormack, who owned the track, came up to me and Steve, and they said, do you think we can race? And Steve and I kind of go off to the side a little bit, and Steve basically tells me, go get in the new dually tractor, put the sheep's foot on it, and if you could start doing laps and getting through turn one is it, because that's where, the little bit of a soft spot, and that it just, he goes, if you sink, we'll get you out later, but do not lift, just go. And I'm not kidding. And so I got the tractor out, and I was already doing probably a good 8 to 10 miles an hour. And if you're pulling a sheep's foot, that's a little fast. And I just floored it, came the track, went through 3 and 4, got through there fine. A hole in one where it's just kind of
where the well was.
Yeah, exactly. And there's mud flying. It's going over the cab. It's everywhere. And I probably got to the point where I was going 2 miles an hour, and I never took any power off the thing, made it through, and we just kept going. And the USAC guys are like, we've never seen anybody try to race this hard. But if you can get the show in, you got to get the show in.
Oh, that's Eagle Raceway tradition.
Exactly.
If there is a way, they're going to.
Well, you have to for the fans. We have to get the show in. So,
No,
all right.
Several years ago at the Race Saver Nationals, we had a deluge. The water was 1.5 feet deep in the.
Wow.
By golly, we raced the next day.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, was that 2018?
I think that was.
Yeah, because we were out with Tig was driving for Ivan Tracy that year. Yeah, I remember that.
Well, and it makes such a difference. Austin and I last night, since he wasn't able to run in the future there, but the water truck and the tractor and the sheep's foot, all that makes such a huge difference to the drivers. How did the fans react? Do they yell and scream if the track prep late, or are they getting engaged in that? Nobody talks about it, or how does that work?
The fans, I'm not so sure.
They
The
like it muddy.
drivers have their own language.
Yes.
You'll hear the track had a lot of character tonight.
Okay. What does that mean then for us uninitiated?
Peevely at the Federated Auto Parts
Mhm.
at I-55, that track had a lot of
Okay. All right. So got a little too much mud going on then.
Yeah, and, well, it's like Mike
super
said, that-
heavy.
Yeah.
That little dip in turn one,
Right.
been there since the track opened in
Mhm.
'63.
And you know it, right? If
You
run
know it
you
there.
know it. Mhm.
I've been told by some of the outlaw guys, if you hit it right, you can launch
Airborne.
really
Mhm,
well.
mhm.
If you hit it wrong, you're going to go
You
for a
break-
ride.
yeah,
Yeah.
or you break an axle, right?
Before we jump to break, I threw out the race where you guys had two of every car, every class of car on the track one night, and I believe Roger put up $1,000. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but I think it was $1,000 to win, and it was like a 10-lap race. And there were some criteria. The obviously the tuners that no longer race at Eagle, but at the time they were racing, they only had to go a certain number of laps, or I don't remember all the specifics of it. But Roger made it at as level of a playing field as he could.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, I thought how cool it was as I was sitting out there that night watching it, because I'm like, some of these guys that drive the tuners, like this could be an entire year's budget if they win this thing.
Oh, sure. I mean, tuners back then, it was $50 to win. They each.
Yeah, and there were $1,000, and a guy that was driving or won.
Yep.
I think if I remember right, he like almost broke down when they were trying to interview him. Like he was choked up, but it was such a cool like thing to do. Racers, I thought it was something that was spectacular. Whose idea was that? Was that yours? Take credit for it. You had the opportunity.
This is your chance.
If it's a wild and crazy idea, it came straight from the brain of Roger Hayden, because he can come up with some real goodies.
Oh, we'll have to hit him up next week then with some of his best ones that never made it, perhaps.
Yeah, so just a little precursor here to our next couple of shows. I think we've already got him pretty much cast in stone. Roger Hayden, the owner of Eagle Raceway, and or Racine, his daughter, are going to be in studio with us next week, the week after, on the phone for the whole hour.
Yes, for the whole hour.
We locked in for the whole hour. The leader of the Extreme Outlaw Midget Series, Jade Avedisian, she drives for Mobile One, which is now a proud sponsor of the Finish Line here on 93.7 The Ticket. Big thanks to them, plus Stern, Eagle Raceway, and Eagle Chassis for being a part of what we're doing here, trying to let the racing family have a voice.
And the week after that, with 27th, not sure who we have booked there, but the week after that, we are talking about perhaps being out at Eagle for a live broadcast. We're going to see if we can make that happen. Maybe get a few Huskers and a 2-seater going around the track. What do you think about that?
Idea. When I was young, we had coverage for local racing.
Yeah, Kurt McKeever.
Yeah, Kurt McKeever. For years, every Sunday you could see who won at Midwest or Eagle or whoever, and it just kind of disappeared. There just is no coverage of racing around here except for what you guys do.
So we need our fans to write into us, text into us, whether it's tonight, tomorrow morning, during early break, anytime. Let us know what you want to hear about on dirt track racing. What do you hear on the radio? Talk to us.
Well, and that's the thing. We're trying to grab some people. We want some national people, but more importantly, I want the locals. And the one thing I'm going to ask, and we'll try to get a hold of, because I've got an idea for a guest on the 27th. There is somebody that is there the morning after every race day at Eagle Raceway, and it's that person's responsibility to make sure that the other people that go up do their best to make that is clean, it gets picked up. If you've got back-to-back nights, that cleanup crew, I ran that cleanup crew for 7 years, and I had a core group of 11 that I, to this day, would hire any one of them to work for me, regardless, because of the work ethic, because of what they did. It's insane what goes into prepping that facility, not just the track, so that the drivers can hopefully have a good surface, facility for people to come in and go, damn, this place is nice. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And so my thought was, because I always would push Kurt Star to, hey, let's do a feature on my crew. I didn't want to be a part of the article. I wanted him to focus on that cleaning crew. And he always was, back of his mind, and he had some notes and all that, but it just never came to fruition. So I think it'd be kind of cool to have one or two or whatever of the key cogs in the wheel that work the morning after a race day for a big event or on a weekly basis that are just out there busting their butt. Nobody knows who they are. Nobody knows the effort they put in. I think they need a pat on the back. I think they need a little bit of a spotlight. So let's see if we can.
I think
work that out.
everybody at the track needs a pat on the back. The
Absolutely.
concession workers, everybody.
Absolutely, because it was hot last night when I went in to get my, oh my gosh, my little mini corn dogs. By the way, loving the mini corn dogs. That's my Eagle Raceway favorite. But it was hot as all get out inside the booth where you're doing the food, and I'm thinking, she had a little tip thing in there. I was like, oh, you totally deserve a tip tonight, even though it was like a walkthrough thing. But she was great, just nice, cheerful, and it's hot as all get out in those kitchens. So yeah.
It is. Getting here up against time, I want to make sure we let everybody know that Get Your Happy On with the Ricky Simmons is coming up next. Christy Goodwin, the executive director of City Impact, is going to be on with him for the next hour. I think Austin's going to stay in and keep driving the car, but it's going to be a fantastic show. It always is here. For those that are watching on the stream, Sutter Heyman stream, thank you very, very much. Don't forget, you can always be a part of the show, 402-464-5685 on the Sutter Heyman text line or Honda of Lincoln hotline. And I also want to make sure that we thank one more time Eagle Motors, everything that he does to help support racing in and around the Midwest. And basically, if you sprint car, he's a guy that I think you're going to want to make sure you become very, very good friends with. His number is 402-826-0302. And Eagle Raceway on board as the sponsor of the finish, Mobile One and Stern. So big thanks to our sponsors here on 93.7. How was it for you last night?
I loved it. It was fun going down in the pits and talking to folks. I got to see Doug. I got to see Bob. Bree wasn't there last night. She was out running somewhere else. And then just sitting in the stands and enjoying it. The breeze was fantastic. Once the sun went down, it was great. Fireworks. And of course you had, Mullet National going on there. So how can you beat that? I mean, really, folks, come out and support Eagle Raceway.
Don't forget about the kids bike races.
Well, the bike races were also great. I thought, what greater place, you get your bike out on the dirt track. It's just like fun. There's so much fun that they do at the track. So if you're looking for something to do, make sure you hit up Eagle Raceway. Great fun for families.
Absolutely. Big thanks to Greg Sukup, PR director for Eagle Raceway, for coming in. If you missed anything from what happened last night, reminder, man, what a race. Go watch the highlights of the 360 Nationals. Brian Brown by 0.02 of a second over Aaron Reitzel for the 360 National title, his second. And then Kyle Larson and Logan Schuchart put on a show at Federated Auto Parts Speedway at I-55 in Peabody for the Ironman. Any Classic going at Knoxville, and there's a lot of big names not racing. Larson, Abreu, Sweet, Schatz, Hod, based in gravel, Schuchart, Allen Kane, Day, Schoenberg, Macri, all not racing, but a bunch are. Right now, the quickest chicken is on top of the speed charts. Sanders and the Bush's Chicken, number 9 car, leads the way. He's also leading the 360 point at Knoxville this year. But that'll wrap it up for tonight's show. Ricky Simmons and Get Your Happy coming your way next from 93.7 The Ticket.
Eagle chassis are back and better than ever. New owner Mike Boston, who has been building Eagle chassis for the last 2.5 years, will be using the same high-quality raw materials and equipment that Eagle chassis have always been made with. Located in Lincoln, Nebraska, Eagle will continue to provide safest chassis there are. They will